Did you know we've been chewing plastic in the name of chewing gum? Hello, you're watching It's All Plastic episode 15. Regular chewing gums are made of the same ingredients as tires, glue, and other types of plastic. But guess what? We do have a choice now. Presenting to you Gud Gum, India's first plastic-free and 100% natural chewing gum. Two brothers, Mayank and Bhuvan, are on a mission to fight this sticky problem with a natural and plant-based solution. To discuss this brilliant innovation in detail, we're in conversation with Mayank Nagori, who is the co-founder of Gud Gum. I've heard of biodegradable tableware, clothes, straws, and so much more. But the idea of making biodegradable chewing gums is just mind-blowing. Can you tell us more about how this journey started and why did you think it was important to replace plastic-based chewing gums with plant-based ones?
Myself and my younger brother are brought up in a family where we don't consume a lot of plastic. Since childhood, we've been carrying our own shopping bags. We've been carrying our own water bottles everywhere we go. We don't really buy a lot of packaged drinking water, or, just don't dwell into a lot of single-use plastic. And for the past 7 years, I've been carrying my own straw. I've been carrying my own coffee mug, etc. I also have a master's in food science. So I always wanted to, kind of make some products that solve problems and not just be another product out there in the market, right? Like, how do you stand out? And when I was studying, I came across, because I was inquisitive, I kind of researched upon what really chewing gums are made of. And that is when I realized that, all of us know the ingredient of chewing gum as gum base, but what is that gum base really? And that's when I realized that this gum base is essentially PVA, which is polyvinyl acetate. And that's the same ingredient that goes into tires and glue. And Fevicol, for example, the other name for Fevicol is PVA glue. Right. So regular chewing gums have a lot of nasty ingredients. They have artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners. They have a lot of warnings written on them saying, okay, not suitable for pregnant women or lactating women, etc. But food doesn't really need to have such sort of disclaimers, right? Chewing gum is something that people from the age of 4 until the age of 80 can consume.
I think when we initially talked about Gud Gum in one of our videos before, the initial response was, why chewing gums? And then people sort of started understanding as the conversation started that it is one thing most people consume on an everyday basis. And nobody really cares about the impact it has on the environment or even on human health for that matter.
Absolutely.
Mayank, what goes behind making plant-based and biodegradable chewing gums, and how are they good for the environment?
Chewing gums were not always plastic. Chewing gums used to be made with a special tree sap. So if you know these, like a lot of old people still call chewing gum chiclet, right? Like the brand chiclets is something that people still resonate with. And why it was called chiclet, it was made with a chicle tree gum base, right? And this chicle tree is very widely available across the Amazonian forest. And because of industrial revolution, because people wanted to mass produce everything, they could not get a lot of this agricultural produce to suffice the demand of the chewing gums in the world. They moved on to a PVA alternative, right? But now when you see majority of the food systems are coming back to where they started from, people thought sugar is a problem, moved to artificial sweeteners, and now they realize artificial sweeteners are a problem. Now they're like, okay, let's consume sugar, but consume it in a conscious manner. Use chicle tree gum base. When you make cuts on the bark of this tree, there's a white sap that comes out, and that's the raw material of a chewing gum. And into that, we add essential oils, we add fruit and vegetable extracts to color and flavor the chewing gums, right? And the sweeteners are xylitol and stevia. Again, both 100% natural. Xylitol is proven by dentists to, really take good care of your teeth. Majority of our toothpaste contains xylitol. And stevia is again a 0-calorie sweetener, which is a plant-based sweetener that comes straight from the plant itself. So end to end, our product is natural. And regular chewing gums, they stick around in our surroundings for hundreds of years because they are PVA. And when people walk over it, when vehicles run over it, all of this plastic fragments into microplastics and enters our water table. And these are various manners how microplastics are entering our system. So if you were following the news in the past couple of months, you would have seen scientists found microplastics in the human placenta, in the lungs, in the bloods of human beings, right? And there are multiple different ways as to how these microplastics can and chewing gum is one of those. Regular chewing gum, because they're plastic, once they're spat, they cannot be recycled.
Yeah.
Because the way we spit it out, we put it into a piece of paper or just spit it onto the road, etc. Unless and until somebody is there to actually physically scavenge it and segregate it and recycle, there is no possibility that this can be recycled. And the enormity of this is about 250 Olympic sized swimming pools worth of plastic is generated only in the form of chewing gum every year. It is still a very small tip of the iceberg. The bigger problems are the carry bags and all the other single-use plastic waste that we consume. But chewing gum is one place, which also can be solved for, and that's what we're solving for.
Ever since we've started this show called It's All Plastic, we've realized that this entire conversation around plastics has become very confusing. Initially, we started blaming plastics, then we shifted focus completely to single-use plastics. Now we think that no, it's not just single-use plastics, but plastics in general that are a problem. As someone who is fighting plastic pollution with this brilliant innovation, can you explain to our audience why plastic is a problem and what is the impact on the environment?
Before I did my master's in food science, I was also a chemical engineer. And coming from a chemical engineering background, I really feel plastic is a great material. It's just not used properly. You go to Europe, when you go to UK, to the US, they will never say don't use plastic. They rather educate consumers onto how they can discard these different materials into different bins where it can get recycled better. So infrastructure is very important with respect to the life cycle of plastic. And coming down to single-use and multi-use plastic, I would still say multiple-use plastic is much more sustainable than using glass or tins, because it has a very long life cycle. It can be recycled to up to 100 to 150 different times. But the real problem is the single-use plastic, because, just an example would be a packet of milk. People usually cut the tip of it and, empty the milk. But that the larger part of the packet might still get recycled. But the smaller particle, the smaller piece that is cut off, that will just stay around in our landfills forever. And that's one integral part as to why we have still not launched a chewing gum in a singular plastic packaging, right? Because we don't want to be a part of the single-use plastic again. Initially, we used to pack our chewing gum straight into paper boxes, right? Directly into the boxes. But we realized that India is a very huge country and has very different climatic conditions across the states. In humid conditions like the Goa, Vishakhapatnam, etc., humidity used to be a problem for the chewing gums inside. And we worked with multiple different materials from different plant extracts, but nothing solves the problem as good as plastic would, right? So now we started using a single material Ziploc cover on the inside, where the chewing gums are not individually packed, but all the 15 chewing gums are packed into a single Ziploc cover. And we work with this company called as the Disposal Company, which helps us offset our plastic generation. So we do an audit on how much plastic we've generated and fund recycling, where this company actually sends out rack pickers to the landfill to pick up more amount of plastic than we have generated and gets it recycled. So we are still, obviously, as a brand, we want our product to be 100% plastic free. But over time, we've realized that, if we have to reach larger consumer base, we have to use a bit of plastic, because that is the only way a product can remain safe. So I wouldn't say plastic is completely bad, but again, the point of conscious consumption and, making sure you recycle or reuse it better or discard it better is very important.
Talking about chewing gums, we all have done it, chewing gums to blow those giant bubbles, especially in school, and to freshen our breaths. And then, of course, there are so many interesting flavors now in chewing gums. How is Gud Gum educating consumers about the impact of this habit and the need to switch to planet-friendly and plant-based alternatives?
So we do a lot of offline events where we get to, talk to consumers firsthand. We also, if you have a look at our social media, we don't really, only endorse the product, but we talk in general about plastic, in general about how people can buy better products at the supermarket, right? So we're trying to create that community where we can have an open conversation. We also do get sometimes, consumers sending us mails or messages saying, boss, you're calling your chewing gum plastic free, but you're using plastic on the inside. And that really actually motivates us, because it's very nice to find people who are actually woke about plastic,
Yeah.
even if that's very small margin of the consumers that we have. But what we do as a company is try to have an open conversation with people, tell them our problems, that we're trying to not use plastic in our packaging, but we'd be open to suggestions, because you cannot know everything in the industry. There are experts in every domain. And with respect to the flavors, etc., that you mentioned, initially the chewing gums used to be only about indulgence, where kids would probably just chew it, blow bubbles, and spit it out, and get those tattoos as freebies,
Yeah.
etc. But chewing gum is much more than that. And the Indian chewing gum industry is very primitive. When you again look at the West, people make sure, like how we look at phone keys and wallets before leaving home.
Right.
They look for phone keys, wallet, and their chewing gum. Like chewing gum is an essential part of their bag.
Right.
That is mainly because dental care is very expensive abroad, and chewing gum is an integral part of preventive oral care, right? It helps to keep your teeth healthy. So, for example, when you have an ice cream or drink a coffee, there can be chemicals that can stain your teeth, but chewing gum post that will help you salivate more, and that saliva will prevent bacteria in your mouth from forming cavities, and also dislodge all the food particles that are stuck in between your teeth. So what we are doing is we are looking to kind of drive the upward sale trend in the chewing gum industry, and not just Good Gum, by educating consumers that, okay, it is not just an indulgent product, but it is an integral part of your daily oral hygiene, right? If it is complemented with a good brushing and flossing activity, people will never have to go to a dentist if they're chewing gum after their meals. So, which is why we tie hands with ice cream parlors. We retail in a lot of ice cream parlors. We retail in a lot of cafes.
Yeah.
Because that's a real touch point where consumers are drinking a coffee and they might have teeth yellowing as a problem. So we have a charcoal mint chewing gum which can help you whiten your teeth. If you see, a lot of people chew gummies, but what happens with gummies is uh, a vitamin gummy, just when we chew it, all of it goes into our stomach at once.
Yeah.
But our stomach is really acidic, right? So, for example, to break it down for you, if you consumed 1 gram of any active ingredient, because it went straight into your stomach, the acid will denature it, and a body can only absorb probably 10 to 15% of that active ingredient, right? But with a chewing gum, because you are chewing it in your oral cavity for 20-25 minutes, you're going to get micro doses of that active ingredient, and not all of it at once, and majority of which gets absorbed in the capillaries of the interior of the oral cavity itself. So the efficiency of these vitamins and minerals is fourfold when consumed in the form of chewing gums.
How do you encourage customers to dispose of good gums responsibly and sustainably?
So if you're around anywhere, where plants are, or is there soil, you can just discard it and forget about it, because it'll just disintegrate, it'll just biodegrade. But apart from that, we would still recommend people to put it into a piece of paper and discard it into the dry waste bin, because over time this will biodegrade, and the paper will prevent the chewing gum from sticking on to the periphery of the bin.
Okay, all right. Do you think Good Gum's chewing gums are priced higher than the regular ones? And if so,
Absolutely.
how do you think your products can be made more affordable to the masses?
Right. So definitely they are priced higher. So on the lower side are the regular chewing gums that are in the market, Happydent, Orbit. All of these retail at about 2 rupees per piece. And our effective price is about 6.5 rupees per piece. And when compared to the premium chewing gums that are imported into India from the US, UK, etc., those chewing gums retail anywhere about 10 to 12 rupees a piece. So we are in that mid segment between the premium imported chewing gums and the Indian made chewing gums. Right? You're buying something which is mass produced in comparison to something more artisanal, where there are much more quality ingredients. That product is prone to be more expensive because of the overheads that come into picture. So if I were to break it down, your boomer, etc., contain sugar, and sugar is around 30 or 35 rupees a kilo. Whereas our chewing gums contain a blend of xylitol and stevia, where the price of the blend comes up to around 1,200 rupees a kilo, right? So you see a 400 or a 40x price difference between the sweetener itself. And the same way with the gum base. The gum base that we use is very rare. And it is not abundantly available as compared to the PVA gum base that the regular chewing gums use. So which is why the prices are a little on the higher side. And again, we are a relatively smaller company where chewing gums are made on a smaller scale. So the overheads, the rent, the labor per chewing gum is much higher. But going forward, once our production capacity increases, once our purchase power increases, when we are able to buy larger quantity of raw materials, we will be able to get a competitive advantage with respect to the price. And as a founder, for me, more than increasing the profit margin that I would have, I would want to give that cost advantage to consumers so that I can penetrate into a larger market by reducing the price of the chewing gum, right? So my target would be somewhere around 75 rupees for a pack of 15 chewing gums, which is still a little higher than the regular chewing gums in the market. But I think with good education and placement, we will get consumers to switch to this sort of a chewing gum soon.
What are the challenges or opportunities that you've encountered on this journey of solving such a huge environmental problem? And what have been your learnings?
So the challenges, again, the price, obviously, a lot of parity between the income groups that you come across in the Indian population, right? And with our chewing gum, it is a little on the pricier side. So not everybody can afford the chewing gum, or not everybody can afford to chew this gum on and on. You won't see that sort of repeat. One of the opportunities that we've come across is the 144 crore population of India, right? We don't even have to look outside of India. India is a massive country, massive population, massive market in itself. And the coming generation is more receptive to products that are better for you and better for the planet. And they are willing to pay that premium for getting that sort of a product. And that's something that, that will help us out in the next 3-4 years, if not now. Right? Because when you compare the market in India with respect to America or the UK, you would see products that appeared in those markets appear in India at least 7 to 8 years after they have launched there. And that's the delay. And we are, I think, on the right path where people would want to, kind of consume better. And we will be in a good place to be able to make more chewing gum available for the population when they actually want it. And another challenge when we try to create a natural product is because chewing gums have always been an artificial product, people have been kind of internally wired to have a chewing gum that is very soft and have the flavor last very long. And that's not what you would see with Gud Gum, because we're using natural flavors, essential oils, and colors. The flavors don't last as long, and that's the natural aspect of the product. So how we tell our consumers, and this is a major feedback that we get from majority of our customers. But what we tell them is, when you actually put a fresh strawberry or a raspberry into your mouth, and once you've swallowed it, the flavor does not linger for 20 minutes after you've swallowed it. It is natural for it to just get blended in the mouth within just 2 minutes of you swallowing it. And that's the natural aspect of the product. But when we go on adding artificial sweeteners and artificial flavors, you will have that experience of still tasting a raspberry even after you've spat the chewing gum out. And that's not natural at all. So there are, again, consumers who would not want to buy the product again because it does not last as long. But there are, again, a larger group of population who understand that, okay, because it is natural. And I think every startup who's trying to solve for a natural product has gone through this, because price and taste cannot be matched with a mass-produced, artificially flavored or artificially made product, right? And because of the startup ecosystem in India, I think it's easier for, when we go as a collective of brands, there are multiple brands in the space doing better energy bars, chocolates, peanut butters. It's a collective sort of communication that goes out to the mass population, and everybody is educating on the same aspect. So consumers are more exposed to this aspect. So it's easier going forward to sell the product.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a very interesting point about the natural flavors, right? I have seen, I think this is a very Indian mentality to buy something, and because we've been conditioned, because we've been so used to consuming additives and artificial sweeteners and artificial flavors, that now if a customer, if I want to buy a Gud Gum chewing gum and the flavor does not last too long, the idea is paisa vasoolna, right? So it's not worth the money. So that I think is the ideology right now. But I think Gud Gum is doing a brilliant job to tackle that.
Yeah.
As we say, we don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. What is
Imperfectly.
your
Yeah.
message to consumers who wish to ditch plastic and switch to a more planet-friendly lifestyle?
So again, why we started this conversation when we started about why chewing gums
Yeah,
is, it is as easy as just moving to a chewing gum,
yeah,
right? Like moving to a sustainable lifestyle is not difficult. You don't have to be top to bottom sustainable. You can take it one day at a time. And the easiest switch you can make is your chewing gum, your straws, and your water bottle. These three things, if you can solve for, you are at least on that journey, and
mm,
going forward, uh, it'll be easier for you to adapt these changes, right? So I would say to consumers, like you mentioned, you don't have to do sustainability or zero waste perfectly, but just start small, and start weighing, like you need to quantify. So for example, I'm based out of Bangalore, and there are people who drink a tender coconut on a daily basis.
yeah.
So this one consumer would be using 365 different plastic straws over the year. But had they bought one single steel straw, they wouldn't have had to use that 365 plastic straws. So my message to consumers is to just start quantifying, or kind of identifying where the plastic waste is getting generated from, and then ask themselves, okay, what is essential, what is not. At some points, like I mentioned, plastic is essential. You cannot do without plastic, but in some points it is very easy to ditch that plastic. So uh, like it's not that you're either on these no plastic boat or the plastic boat. You can be midway as well.
What is that one message to people who are inspired by your work, who are inspired by your mission, and who are also on their eco-friendly entrepreneurial journey? What is that one message for them that you have?
So I'd say educate as many people as you can with mediums like this, right? Like don't hesitate, because it is important to get out to the larger population. And it's essentially like hammering a nail onto a wall. You need to keep hammering it so that it actually gets stuck into the wall, and that will happen over time, right? So people who are already practicing some sort of sustainability or zero waste, I'd say, get more of your closer family and friends to start inculcating those habits, and vouch for products that you come across, right? Like I wouldn't hesitate to tell you my competitors products, or not even competitors, but products from different companies, so that you can consume those products. And this is only how word of mouth works really well. Create that awareness amongst the community that you're in.
No one company can really solve this problem, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody has
Yep.
to come in together collaboratively. I wish you all the best. And
Thank
I
you.
think what you're doing is amazing. You're solving a very big problem that a lot of us, most of us, did not really notice that it existed. And thank you for speaking to me today.
Thank you for hosting me. And like I'm really happy that people like you are actually, getting people like us on board to spread the word with your community. And that's really important. It's again a collaborative approach. Like brands and thought leaders have to join hands to, influence more people. So really happy to do this.